The rescue. The night was unusually cold for September, and Sasha Novak hurried along the dimly lit street. Budget cuts had forced her to stay late at the community center, reviewing applications for assistance programs that had too many applicants and too little funding. Her mind was still occupied with the difficult decisions she'd have to make tomorrow. Who would receive help and who would have to wait? Lost in thought, she didn't notice the group of men emerging from the alleyway until they had already surrounded her. 3 figures, faces partially obscured by hoods, blocked her path forward while another closed in from behind. "Nice bag," one of them said, gesturing toward her worn leather satchel. "Hand it over." Sasha clutched the bag tighter against her side. It contained not just her wallet and phone, but also confidential files of families seeking assistance. "Please," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "There's nothing valuable in here." The tallest man stepped closer. "We'll be the judge of that." As his hand reached for her bag, a voice cut through the tension. 4 against 1 seems a bit unfair, doesn't it?" A man stood at the corner of the street, his face partially shadowed. Even in the poor light, Sasha could see his confident stance and broad shoulders. "This isn't your business," the tall mugger called back. But there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. The stranger stepped forward, now clearly visible under a streetlight. He was tall, with deep brown skin and closely cropped black hair. His eyes were calm but determined. "I'm making it my business." What happened next was a blur of motion. The stranger moved with unexpected grace, positioning himself between Sasha and the attackers. He didn't throw a single punch, but somehow managed to deflect and redirect their aggression, causing 2 of them to collide with each other. His movements were precise, controlled, like someone who had trained extensively but hoped never to use those skills. "You should leave," he told the would-be muggers, his voice quiet but firm. "Now." Something in his tone made them hesitate, then back away, disappearing into the darkness of the alley. Once they were gone, the stranger turned to Sasha. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm fine," she managed, her heart still racing. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." He smiled slightly, revealing a small dimple in his right cheek. "I'm Ravi, and it's fortunate that I was passing by." "Sasha Novak," she replied, extending her hand. His grip was warm and reassuring. "Do you always rescue strangers at night?" "Only on Tuesdays," he said with a hint of humor. "Let me walk you to somewhere safe." As they walked, Sasha learned that Ravi Mehta had recently moved to the area. He spoke little about himself, deflecting her questions with gentle humor, but listened intently when she mentioned her work at the Oak Ridge Community Center. "Social work isn't for the faint of heart," he observed as they reached the brightly lit subway entrance. "The world needs more people like you." "I could say the same about people who step in when others are in trouble," she replied. Ravi shook his head. "What I did was momentary. What you do changes lives every day." Before she could respond, he checked his watch. "This is where I leave you." "Will you be safe from here?" Sasha nodded. "Yes, thank you again." He smiled, that small, dimpled smile once more. "It was nice meeting you, Sasha Novak." As he turned to leave, Sasha called after him. "Wait, how can I reach you?" "To properly thank you." Ravi paused, looking back over his shoulder. "Maybe we'll cross paths again sometime." And then he was gone, leaving Sasha with the strange feeling that their meeting had been both chance and somehow inevitable. Unexpected encounters. 3 weeks after the incident, Sasha had almost convinced herself that she would never see Ravi again. Almost, except for the fact that his face kept appearing in her thoughts at unexpected moments. The Oak Ridge Community Center was particularly busy that morning. A pipe had burst in the east wing, leaving several program rooms unusable and forcing activities to double up in the remaining spaces. Sasha navigated through crowded hallways, clipboard in hand, trying to sort out the chaos. "Ms. Novak?" Dina, the receptionist, waved her over. "The new volunteer is here, the one who called about helping with the after-school program." Sasha glanced at her schedule. With everything happening, she'd forgotten about the interview. "Can you ask them to wait 15 minutes? I need to finish relocating the senior art class." "Already told him," Dina replied. "He offered to help fix the broken basketball hoop in the meantime. He's in the gym." Curious about this proactive volunteer, Sasha headed toward the gymnasium after resolving the art class situation. She pushed open the double doors to find a man balancing on a ladder, tools in hand, carefully adjusting the bent rim of the basketball hoop. Even from behind, there was something familiar about his build and posture. When he turned, Sasha froze. Ravi, the surprise in his eyes matched her own. Sasha, you work here? I'm the program director, she said, still processing the coincidence. You're our new volunteer? He descended the ladder with easy grace. I was hoping to help with the after-school tutoring program. I have a background in education. What are the odds? Sasha couldn't help smiling. Of all the community centers in the city. Maybe it's fate, he suggested, then quickly added. Or just a statistical coincidence in a city that's smaller than it seems. As they talked, Sasha learned that Ravi had taught mathematics at an international school before moving back to the States. He spoke passionately about education but remained vague about why he'd left his previous position or what else he did for work. Now, I have some flexibility in my schedule, was all he offered when she asked about his availability over the next 2 weeks. Ravi became an invaluable presence at the center. He connected effortlessly with the struggling students in the after-school program, breaking down complex concepts into understandable pieces. Beyond tutoring, he stepped in wherever help was needed, fixing equipment, translating for non-English-speaking families, even staying late to help Sasha with grant applications. What struck Sasha most was how he refused recognition. When the parent of a student whose grades had improved dramatically tried to thank him publicly, Ravi gently redirected the praise to the student's hard work. When the local paper wanted to feature volunteers at the center, he politely declined to be photographed. One evening, as they were closing up the center, Sasha found herself watching Ravi as he patiently explained a math problem to Joaquin, their most challenging student. The boy who normally radiated defiance was leaning forward, engaged and nodding. You have a gift, she told Ravi later as they walked out together. These kids trust you, he shrugged. They just need someone to see them, really. See them, not their circumstances or behaviors. The statement resonated with Sasha. There was something about Ravi that made people feel truly seen. As they reached the parking lot, the center's elderly maintenance man approached them. Ms. Novak, the check came through? We're getting new heating for the winter. Sasha frowned in confusion. What check? The grant decisions aren't until next month. Anonymous donation, the man explained excitedly. Just like the one that fixed the roof last year. Someone out there's looking out for us. Sasha turned to share her surprise with Ravi, but something in his expression made her pause. He was studying the pavement with unusual intensity, a faint color rising in his cheeks. That's wonderful news, he said, not meeting her eyes. A suspicion began to form in Sasha's mind, but before she could pursue it, Ravi checked his watch. I should go. Early morning tomorrow. As he walked away, Sasha was left wondering about the man who seemed to appear exactly when needed, whether it was to rescue her from danger or to rescue her community center from disrepair. Growing Bonds October painted the neighborhood in amber and crimson as the community center prepared for its annual harvest festival. The event was crucial for the center, not just for community building, but for raising awareness and supplementary funding for their winter programs. Sasha had been organizing it for 5 years, but this year felt different. This year, she had Ravi. You've positioned the food stations too close to the entrance, Ravi pointed out gently as they reviewed the layout plans spread across Sasha's cluttered desk. It'll create a bottleneck. People will be stuck in line before they can even see what else the festival offers. Sasha tapped her pen against her bottom lip, considering. You're right. What if we move them along the east wall instead? That leaves the central space open for the children's activities. Working together had become surprisingly natural over the past month. Ravi's thoughtful suggestions complemented Sasha's passionate vision, creating a balance that enhanced their projects. His presence at the center had become something she looked forward to each day. His quiet laughter, his thoughtful questions, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Perfect, Ravi agreed, his shoulder brushing against hers as he leaned over to mark the new locations on the map. The casual contact sent a small jolt through Sasha, making her suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Their eyes met briefly before both looked away. Something was shifting between them, evolving beyond professional admiration into territory neither seemed ready to acknowledge. The festival is Saturday, Sasha said, gathering the papers with slightly unsteady hands. I still need volunteers for setup on Friday evening. Count me in, Ravi replied. And I may know some people who could help with the heavy lifting. True to his word, Ravi arrived Friday evening with 4 friends who efficiently transformed the community center's ordinary spaces into a festive autumn wonderland. They hung string lights, assembled game booths, and arranged hay bales and pumpkins with cheerful efficiency. What struck Sasha was how these friends, all successful professionals, she gathered from their conversations, treated Ravi with a deference that seemed at odds with his modest volunteer position. When she mentioned this to Teresa, the center's elderly receptionist, the woman gave her a curious look. You haven't figured it out yet, have you? Teresa asked. Figured what out? Teresa opened her mouth to respond, then seemed to reconsider. Not my place to say, but maybe pay attention to how people react to him outside your little bubble here. The festival itself was a triumph. Children laughed as they bobbed for apples and decorated pumpkins. Parents chatted while sampling local food vendors' offerings. Community leaders mingled with residents, bridging socioeconomic divides that normally separated the neighborhood. Throughout the day, Sasha found her gaze repeatedly drawn to Ravi. He moved through the crowd with ease, helping wherever needed, settling a dispute between children, translating for an elderly couple who spoke only Hindi, fixing the sound system when it briefly failed. He belonged here, she realized, not just at the festival but in her world. During a rare, quiet moment, they found themselves alone by the apple cider station. You've created something special here, Ravi said, handing her a steaming cup. This isn't just an event, it's a community coming together. We did this, Sasha corrected him. I couldn't have pulled it off without you. He smiled, that small, dimpled smile that had become so familiar. You underestimate yourself. And you deflect compliments like they're physical attacks, she countered. Why is it so hard for you to accept that you've made a difference here? Something vulnerable flickered across his face. I'm just not used to... He paused, searching for words. To being valued for what I do rather than who I am. Or who people think I am. Before she could ask what he meant, a commotion erupted near the entrance. An elegantly dressed older couple had arrived, causing a stir among some of the community board members who rushed to greet them. Ravi's posture changed instantly, his shoulders tensing. I should check on the children's craft table, he said abruptly. Ravi, wait. But he was already moving away, weaving through the crowd with purpose. The center's director approached Sasha, looking flustered. Did you know the Metas were coming? This is huge. They're the biggest philanthropists in the region. Their foundation funds half the community programs in the city. Sasha watched as Ravi disappeared into the crowd, deliberately moving in the opposite direction from the distinguished couple. The pieces were starting to come together, painting a picture she wasn't sure she was ready to see. That evening, as they cleaned up after the festival, Sasha found herself working alongside Ravi in comfortable silence. Whatever tension had gripped him earlier had dissipated, replaced by the easy companionship they'd developed. Dinner? He asked simply as they carried the last boxes to storage. There's a great Ethiopian place around the corner. Under the warm glow of restaurant lights, sharing injera and conversation, Sasha realized she was falling for him. Not just his kindness or his mysterious depth, but the entirety of who he was, including the parts he seemed determined to keep hidden. Revelations, the annual winter gala for community organizations, was the kind of event Sasha typically avoided. Too formal, too focused on wealthy donors rather than the people actually doing the work. But as program director of Oak Ridge Community Center, her attendance was mandatory. The center needed funding, and the gala was where funding decisions were often unofficially made. You look beautiful, Teresa said as Sasha checked her reflection one last time in the community center's bathroom. She'd splurged on a deep emerald dress that complemented her auburn hair, now styled in loose waves instead of its usual practical bun. I feel like I'm wearing a costume, Sasha admitted, smoothing the unfamiliar fabric, like I'm pretending to be someone else for the night. Teresa's knowing gaze met hers in the mirror. Sometimes we all wear masks, dear. The trick is recognizing when they're necessary and when they're holding you back. The Grand Metropolitan Hotel ballroom was transformed into a winter wonderland, with crystalline decorations and soft blue lighting that mimicked a frost-touched evening. Sasha navigated through clusters of well-dressed attendees, making obligatory small talk with board members and potential donors, all while feeling increasingly out of place. She was midway through an awkward conversation with a banking executive when a familiar voice behind her said, "Ms. Novak is being modest about the center's impact. Their after-school program has improved graduation rates by 27% in just 3 years." Sasha turned to find Ravi standing there, except he wasn't the Ravi she knew. Gone were the casual clothes and approachable demeanor. This Ravi wore an impeccably tailored tuxedo and carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who belonged in this world of wealth and influence. "Mr. Mehta knows his statistics," the banker said, clearly impressed. "The Mehta Foundation has always had an eye for effective programs." Sasha froze. Mehta, the philanthropist from the festival, the major donors whose name appeared on buildings throughout the city. "Would you excuse us?" Ravi, Mr. Mehta, asked politely, placing a gentle hand on Sasha's elbow to guide her away. He led her to a quiet alcove away from the crowd. Up close she could see tension in the set of his jaw, uncertainty in his eyes. "You're Ravi Mehta," she said, the pieces finally falling into place. "Of the Mehta Foundation, the anonymous donor who's been funding our center." He nodded once. "I should have told you sooner." All this time, Sasha struggled to reconcile the humble volunteer with the heir to one of the city's largest fortunes. "You let me believe you were just what?" There was a hint of challenge in his voice. "Just a volunteer? Just a tutor? Isn't that who I've been these past months?" "You lied to me," Sasha said, the hurt crystallizing into something sharp. "Every day watching me struggle with budget cuts and grant applications, knowing you could solve those problems with a single phone call." "I never lied," he countered quietly. "I just didn't volunteer information that would change how you saw me, how everyone sees me." A waiter passed with champagne and Ravi took 2 glasses, offering one to Sasha. She accepted it automatically, her mind still processing the revelation. "My whole life, people have treated me differently because of my family name," he continued. "At school, in business, even in relationships. I never knew if people liked me or just what I represented. At Oak Ridge, for the first time, I was valued for what I actually contributed. My time, my ideas, my work. Not my checkbook." Sasha took a sip of champagne, buying time to sort through her conflicted feelings. "And us, was that part of your experiment too? Seeing if someone could like the real you?" Pain flashed across his face. "There was never any experiment, Sasha. What's between us is the most honest thing in my life." From across the room, a photographer called out, "Mr. Mehta, a picture with the foundation board, please." Ravi didn't move. "I need to know if this changes everything." Before she could answer, they were interrupted by the center's director, practically vibrating with excitement. "Sasha, did you hear the news? The Mehta Foundation is announcing a 5-year funding commitment to all our programs tonight. We're saved." The director hurried away to share the news, leaving Sasha staring at Ravi with new understanding. "That's why you're here tonight. You're making the announcement." "My father insisted," Ravi said, his expression unreadable. "He thought it was time I took a more public role in the foundation." "Mr. Mehta," the photographer called again, more insistent. "Go," Sasha said, stepping back. "They're waiting for you." For a moment he looked like he might refuse, might stay and finish their conversation. Instead, he placed his untouched champagne on a nearby table. "We need to talk. After." As he walked away, Sasha watched how people responded to him. The respectful nods, the eager handshakes, the calculated smiles of those hoping to catch his attention. This was his reality, the world he had temporarily escaped by volunteering at Oak Ridge. She thought of every interaction they'd shared over the past months, his reluctance to discuss his background, his deflection of recognition, his understanding of the center's needs. Had it all been genuine, or was she simply part of some rich man's journey to find himself? The evening stretched on endlessly as Sasha moved through the gala on autopilot, her mind replaying every moment with Ravi in this new context. When she finally slipped away, leaving without saying goodbye, she wasn't sure if she was more angry at Ravi for his deception, or at herself for not seeing the truth that had been in front of her all along. Truth and reconciliation. Community Center was quiet on Sunday morning. Sasha hadn't planned to come in, but after a restless night replaying the gala's revelations, she needed the comfort of familiar surroundings. The building held a different energy when empty, peaceful yet full of echoes from the lives that intersected within its walls. She unlocked her office, intending to lose herself in paperwork, but stopped short in the doorway. On her desk sat a simple wooden box with an envelope propped against it. Her name was written in Ravi's distinctive handwriting. For several moments, she simply stared at it. Part of her wanted to leave it untouched, to protect herself from whatever explanation or justification it contained. But the larger part, the part that had grown to care deeply for Ravi, needed to understand. The letter inside was handwritten on plain paper. Sasha, if you're reading this, you've returned to the place where we truly met. Not that night on the street, but here, where we built something meaningful together. I've never been good with words when they matter most, so I've included something that might explain better than I can. Inside the box are photographs and journal entries from my childhood and early adulthood. They tell the story I should have shared with you from the beginning. If you're willing to hear the rest in person, I'll be at Riverside Park near the old oak tree until noon. If you don't come, I'll understand and I'll respect your decision. Ravi, with hesitant fingers, Sasha opened the box. Inside were photographs spanning decades. A solemn-faced boy standing awkwardly beside stern-looking parents at formal events. A teenager receiving academic awards while cameras flashed. A young man cutting ribbons at building dedications, his smile not reaching his eyes. Beneath these were journal entries, their honesty startling. Age 14. Mother arranged another casual meetup with the Patel's daughter. I know they're already planning our futures. No one asks what I want. Age 17. Overheard my friends discussing how to leverage their connection to me for their parents' business interests. Am I just a meta to everyone? Age 23. Father says it's time I take my proper place in the foundation. The family legacy. What about my legacy? What about who I am beyond this name? The most recent entry was dated just weeks before their first encounter. I've decided to volunteer somewhere. No name, no connections, no expectations. Just me, whatever that means. Maybe then I'll know if I have anything of value to offer beyond the family fortune. Sasha checked her watch. 11:30. She had 30 minutes to decide. Riverside Park was dappled with autumn sunlight when she arrived. Ravi sat on a bench beneath the massive oak, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. The Ravi she had come to know, not the polished figure from the gala. He looked up as she approached, hope and uncertainty battling in his expression. You came, he said simply. Sasha sat beside him, leaving space between them. I read your letter, saw the photographs. Then you understand why I kept it from you. I understand why you started to, she corrected. But we've known each other for months now, Ravi. You had countless opportunities to tell me the truth. He nodded, accepting the criticism. I was afraid. Every time we grew closer, the stakes got higher. At first I thought I was protecting myself from being judged by my name. Later I realized I was more afraid of losing you. How ironic, Sasha said softly, that in trying to prevent that you nearly caused it. They sat in silence for a moment, watching a family fly a kite in the distance. The funding announcement, she finally said. Was that your way of making amends? Ravi shook his head firmly. That decision was made weeks ago, before any of this. The center deserves that support based on its impact, not because of us. And what exactly is us, Ravi? Sasha turned to face him fully. Who are we, really? The social worker and the volunteer? The program director and the wealthy donor? I'm not even sure I know anymore. We're just Sasha and Ravi, he said, his voice gaining conviction. Everything else, my family name, your job title, those are just circumstances, not who we are. He took a deep breath. The man who helped you that night, who tutored those kids, who stayed late to fix broken equipment, that's the real me. The foundation, the wealth, the social position, those things are part of my life, but they're not my identity. Sasha considered his words. But they do shape you, Ravi, just like my background shapes me. We can't pretend these things don't matter. You're right, he acknowledged. They matter, but they shouldn't define us or what we could be together. He hesitated, then added, unless you believe they do. The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Sasha thought about everything they'd shared. The small moments of connection, the shared purpose, the gradual building of trust now fractured but perhaps not irreparably broken. I need to know something, she said finally. That first night when you helped me, was that planned? Did you engineer that meeting? Ravi looked genuinely shocked. No, that was pure chance. I was walking home from a community meeting about local development. Wrong place, right time. Sasha nodded, something settling inside her. And coming to volunteer at Oak Ridge specifically? That was deliberate, he admitted. After our meeting, I researched you and found the center. I wanted to see you again, yes, but I also genuinely wanted to help. Once I started, I stayed because I believed in the work and because of you. A child's laughter floated across the park, reminding Sasha of the joy she'd seen on the faces of the center's children when Ravi worked with them. His impact there had been real, regardless of his last name. I'm still angry, she said honestly. Trust is important to me. I know. He met her gaze steadily. I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness. Just a chance to rebuild that trust. Properly this time, with everything in the open. Sasha considered what Teresa had said about masks, when they're necessary and when they hold us back. Perhaps they had both been hiding in different ways. She behind her work, using dedication to a cause as a shield against the vulnerability of close relationships. He behind anonymity, fearing judgment based on preconceptions rather than truth. I don't care about your money, Ravi, she said finally. I never would have. But I do care about honesty. From now on, he promised, complete transparency. No more secrets, she smiled faintly. That goes both ways. I haven't exactly been forthcoming about my own fears and feelings. The space between them on the bench seemed to shrink as Ravi cautiously extended his hand, palm up. An invitation, not a demand. After a moment's hesitation, Sasha placed her hand in his. So where do we go from here? He asked. Forward, she answered. Slowly, honestly together if that's what we both want. But as partners, equals, regardless of bank accounts or backgrounds. As they sat beneath the ancient oak, hands linked and possibilities unfurling before them, Sasha realized that perhaps this was what love actually meant. Not the absence of mistakes or the perfection of first impressions, but the willingness to see beyond facades to the authentic self beneath, and the courage to begin again with truth as the foundation. The journey ahead would have its challenges, his family's expectations, the complications of their professional connection, the rebuilding of damaged trust. But in this moment, with autumn leaves drifting around them and the steady warmth of his hand in hers, Sasha chose to believe that what they had found in each other was worth the risk of beginning anew. In the end, it wasn't about who had saved whom. It was about two people who had helped each other find something genuine in a world of masks and expectations, the freedom to be fully, truly themselves.